Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 2 of the Swing Fix. My name's Chris Schultz, owner and head instructor here at Growth Golf, and tonight we want to discuss the importance of the driver, because let's be honest, it's charity golf season and we're ready to hit bombs and embarrass all of our friends on the golf course. Today we're going to cover a few of the common misses that I tend to see in all of my lessons, and most importantly, how we actually fix them. Because let's be honest, we want to hit more fairways, maximize that ball speed, and really start lowering those scores. So before we really get into those common misses, and most importantly, those drills to fix it, I want to break down setup. And why I want to break down setup is this, in the grand essence of it, is the most important piece of driver. And why I say that is driver is one of those clubs where we are really trying to maximize our speed, which in turn, we need to make sure we are stable. And what I mean by stable is making sure that not only our core is stable underneath us, but having a base to support it. And so where we need to really start is all within the grip. And why this is so important is what I tend to see most people do is they really grab the club in the meat of their hands. And why this is so bad in the golf swing is what ends up happening is it really slows the reaction as we are coming through. And I know we've all seen it, our buddy hucking one far right, taking out that big bay window, and let's be honest, we're sick of buying insurance for the golf season, okay? So the point of it is, let's fix that grip this year, make sure we aren't breaking windows, but most importantly, finding more fairways. So how we wanna really feel with this grip is making sure that we're coming down this finger line, okay? That's step one, okay? From there, there's two different grips that can really work in golf, okay? I'm someone, I grew up in the overlap era, and what that means is pinky right over the pointer and making sure that we have very, very loose tension. And what I mean by that is you should be able to see a gap when you lift this club up. It should never be, like I said, stuck deep into that hand. The other grip, and this is one that I would say is probably the most common grip that I see most of my students do, and that's the interlock, okay? Tiger Woods did it. He happened to be quite good at golf. Not a bad person to resonate after. So the point of it is the interlock, they both have their benefits. To me, interlock, in my opinion, does create a little better connection with release. So if you are someone that has issues with the club face, I would recommend the interlock, where if you have someone like me who has really fast hands, the overlap is something that really helps me feel more of this open palm feel, which in turn really squares that club face at impact. From there, how we actually address the ball is something that's so different with a driver, right? So the point of it is, we've all hit 7-irons before, and where do we stand? Well, we stand right in the middle, and why we do that is we are trying to create compression. But if we try to create compression with a driver, what that ends up creating is spin. And that's what we all are seeing when that ball is spraying off the fairway. And so the first thing and most important step beyond the grip comes into ball position. And something that always helped me make sure I get into the same position every time is starting with my feet together with the ball right in the middle of both of my shoes, doing a little baby step, and taking a big step. Width of stance is something that is very subjective to each person, right? So for me, someone that swings in that 120 to 125 at a cruising speed, I tend to stand much wider. People that are a little taller, I've noticed, tend to have that little narrower stance. The point of it is we need our feet slightly outside of our shoulders, but the thing that we cannot be is too wide to where we lose mobility, okay? That needs to be on the forefront of our thoughts to make sure that we can still release our body as we are making this motion. From there, as we are gripping this club, we have this really nice base. We really want to make sure that we avoid a few other key elements. I see a lot of people, as they set up, pushing their hands ahead. And if you really think about it logically, when we are doing this, what that club face is actually doing is that is opening up to the target. So best case scenario, even with a perfect plane, which let's be honest, we're not gonna have a perfect plane, all right? We play within a tolerance level in golf. And so the fact of the matter is, if our hands are ahead and we are coming through, where is that club face gonna go? Well, that's gonna go far right, which in turn is already creating that thought process of having to flip, okay? Why that's so detrimental, not only does that take speed away, but that obviously takes accuracy away. So we really wanna make sure, and I have all my students do this, that when we are swinging, these hands start behind, just like this, to where we have this nice neutral base, okay? From here, I tend to see this last misconception, which is tilt, okay? Why tilt becomes such a interesting topic with the driver is people over-exaggerate this to the nth degree. And what I mean, you've seen it, that guy just really winding up and just hucking one of these at your friends, okay? What does this do to our spine? Well, what this does is this reduces, once again, our mobility around our body. And as I said before, mobility and stability need to be on the forefront of what we are doing. So a really simple and easy way to get in a great tilted position that really gets us without being over-exaggerated is just taking your hand and touching the side of your right knee and grabbing the club. As you get more used to this, your shoulders will start naturally falling into this position, but right away having this little checklist will really help. The other thing that you need to realize with what this tilt is doing is it really helps stabilize what our shoulder plane is doing. And what I mean by that is when we are actually setting up, as we move ball position forward in a golf swing, what ends up happening is our shoulders open. And what that tends to create is that big swooping left to right shot. So this is one of those common things that people tend to forget when we start messing with ball position is we have to readjust those shoulders by making sure we are nice and square before we take the club back. So now that we've discussed setup, what I want to really start talking about is those common misses. And where this all begins is the club face. As we notice, this is the largest club face in the whole bag, but yet we all tend to miss this face. Why does that happen? Well, it all begins with this massive lateral shift. And what does that create? Well, that big first miss is that super high sky ball that goes absolutely nowhere, hardly gets to the ladies' tee box. And the other big miss that this massive slide tends to create is that big slice. And so today what I want to talk about is a few different feels that are going to really help us A, get rid of that, and B, never have to feel embarrassed again when those drives come out. So the first thing that I want to talk about is one of those things that I tend to see in every single lesson is the lack of understanding on how the body actually rotates around the axis. And what I mean by that is it's a very logical mistake is people think our body rotates up and down in the golf swing. But if you notice and pay attention to how my hips move, if my shoulders go up like this, what happens? Well, this hip slides, okay? Why this is such a big issue is if my hip tends to slide this way, well, the only way for me to get back into impact is sliding through. This is not a sport where we can all of a sudden catch ourselves, get into perfect position, and then hit the ball. Because at the end of the day, we have less than a second to make this thing happen. So the point of it is, this first move is so critical in the golf swing. And so I want us to really pay attention to how our shoulders move. And one of these thoughts that I use with all my students is this idea of just thinking very around the body, very parallel with our shoulder turn, okay? So how this drill is gonna really work is we need to grab a chair at home where we can just use this to create this feel, okay? What you're gonna need to do is you're gonna take your left knee and put it right off the armrest, we wanna make sure that this club just goes right across our shoulder line, okay? I see a bunch of people do it like this. This defeats the whole purpose. Make sure that we are up on top, and you're gonna see why here in a second, okay? So once we get into this position, we wanna make sure we build that really nice setup that we just worked on. And from this plane, we wanna make sure we create this really nice rotation, sit, which is kind of loading into that right side, and then from this spot, fire. What we are really focusing on is activating this right side, making sure that through the driver swing, not only are we engaging our lower body, but really making sure that this right shoulder is coming underneath. Why that's so critical is that's what's gonna really help clear this club face as we come through impact. So like I said, make sure when we are doing this feel that you take your time, you go slow. And why we want to go slow is for two reasons. First reason, we can break the club. So don't do that, because I'm not buying you another driver. So second reason is, as we do this, the slower we can go, our body latches onto that faster. So that way it's more efficient repetition, so we can do less work, get better results, so we're hitting more fairways by the time summer hits. Well, I hate to call you guys out again, but we all know the chicken wing goes through the bag, and I see this time and time again with the driver, and it is one of the worst misses we can have. And why this is so detrimental is it creates a couple of different misses. The first miss is that toe miss. And why this is so detrimental is it really messes with what's called the spin axis. And what that actually is that is the club face, that is the spin off the club face, and that is how that ball is rotating from the club face. Why that becomes so detrimental is we've all seen it where the ball comes off the tee and just swoops straight down to the ground, or pulls so hard left right into that neighbor's pool. So the point of it is the chicken wing, whether we're chipping, whether we're hitting a 7-iron, or even with the driver, becomes incredibly detrimental. As we are coming through the golf swing, with the driver especially, there's two things that we really need to focus on to make sure that this left arm does not do the chicken wing. First thing is making sure that this left hip is clearing. That's what that last drill was all about, is making sure that we are activating this right side, getting our chest to clear so that we have an opportunity to even release the golf club. And when I say release, this is such a misnomer in golf. And what I mean by that is it's not flipping the hands, it is releasing the golf club. And why this is so critical is this actually transfers the speed that we are creating from the top of the swing through the ball, okay? So this is a really important phase to maximize this ball speed, to maximize this club speed, and of course, to outdrive all of our friends. So, as I was saying, when we are in this setup, making sure that this full rotation's coming through, getting these hips, and then from this point, making sure we're creating this rotation. So I have a really good feel that I love to use, and what that is with the Frisbee. I think we've all thrown a Frisbee in our life, and if not, let's go throw a Frisbee, because this really does get the great understanding of how the wrist reacts throughout the golf swing. So what we want to really focus on when we are doing this is making sure, A, that we are still in our posture, B, make sure we are still loading, and C, as we are coming through, make sure that we are throwing this Frisbee and actually rotating this left arm. Why this is so important is this elbow has to be pointing down. If that elbow does not point down, that is what creates the need for us to pull this back and to chicken wing, okay? So when we are doing this drill, I want you guys to really focus on this thought of throwing and releasing the arm, okay? It's really important that we get this full release coming through. Like I said, as we're hitting this shot, when we are releasing this, This is gonna help us with two things. It helps us with maximizing speed. It helps us with getting this club through the ball, but it also helps us avoid that dreaded pull and also the top. Because I think we've all seen that guy stand up here and do this one, where they pull their left shoulder back trying to lift this ball off the tee. That is not how we hit up on the ball, ladies and gentlemen. How we hit up on the ball is maintaining our spine angle, making sure we are using the ground properly, and really making sure we are releasing this club properly through the golf swing. Over this next month, I want you guys to make sure that you are identifying that miss. Why that's so critical is to make sure that these don't continue to happen. We've all played golf long enough to realize that this game is hard. We're gonna miss a shot here and there, but if we don't have a plan of action forward, it's never gonna get better. So whether it's using that chair drill or understanding the Frisbee and why that's so critical to our golf game, that is what's going to get us hitting more fairways. Whether you're practicing in the bays or taking this to the course, I really appreciate you guys tuning into the Swing Fix. We'll catch you guys next month.